Every year, the U.S. Agency for Global Media honors excellence in journalism with an award named after founding chairman David Burke. Formerly the president of CBS News, as well as the vice president and executive vice president of ABC News, David Burke was committed to the democratic principle of a free press. The Burke Awards recognize superior accomplishments made by professionals across USAGM, whether reporting critical information to underserved audiences or providing safe and secure means of accessing that information. And now, from Washington, D.C., the David Burke Distinguished Journalism Awards.
Welcome to the U.S. Agency for Global Media's 21st Annual David Burke Distinguished Journalism Award Ceremony. I'm Amanda Bennett, and as USAGM CEO, I'm honored to be with you today as we celebrate the best of our agency, the women and men who exemplify our mission to inform, engage, and connect people around the world in support of freedom and democracy. For 21 years, this celebration is focused on the high-quality journalism from each of our 5 public service media networks: the Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, Radio Free Asia, the Office of Cuba Broadcasting, and the Middle East Broadcasting Networks. Today, you will hear about the brave and remarkable individuals who have taken great risks to report the truth to audiences in Afghanistan, Belarus, Cuba, North Korea, and across the Middle East. And for the first time, this year we also honor the outstanding work done to expand delivery and access to that reporting around the world. USAGM's Office of Technology Services and Innovation, as well as the Open Technology Fund, make it possible for audiences in media-restricted areas to not only access unbiased news and information, but to do so in a way that is private and secure. Their work is vital to our mission because even the best journalism is of no use if people cannot see or hear it. The free press around the world today is under attack. Every corner of the globe is witnessing authoritarian attempts to restrict and control the free flow of information. And we continue to see mis- and disinformation spread at a historic pace. Quite simply, our work to support press freedom is more important than ever. The individuals you'll learn about today represent the best of USAGM. Their accomplishments provide a glimpse into the realities of today's global media environment, the importance of press freedom, and the incredible impact of USAGM. I'm so excited to present you this year's David Burke's Distinguished Journalism Award winners. Their excellence is an inspiration for us all as we continue our work to support freedom and democracy.
When I look across the Voice of America and our sister networks, I am consistently impressed by the content that our journalists are creating. Today, it is my honor to congratulate both Aisha Tansim and our entire Afghanistan service, recipients of this year's David Burke Award, for their body of work during the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan in August 2021. I say that not just as the acting director of Voice of America, but as someone who cares deeply and passionately about journalism and press freedom. VOA exists because journalism is needed the most during difficult times. And Afghanistan is no stranger to difficulty. But August 2021 changed things. That summer marked the end of America's longest war. It marked the start of a new regime in Afghanistan and a new world for the Afghan people who were facing new development with uncertainty. That uncertainty extended to you as well. It is not secret that the Taliban are no friends of a free press. As their soldiers entered Kabul, VOA's journalists there had reason to believe that they would be targeted for their profession and for their association with Voice of America. But still, they reported. In the Dari and Pashto languages, VOA's contract staff in Kabul covered the final days of their democratic government and the first days of the new regime. In Washington, their VOA colleagues work around the clock to provide the latest to their fellow Afghans, all while knowing that their own loved ones were at risk. To reach our global audience, the VOA News Center's Aisha Tanzim reported from the Kabul airport as throngs of Afghans, including their own colleagues, worked desperately to find a way out of their country. But Aisha's work at the airport extended well beyond reporting. She tirelessly worked her contacts, not just for news, but for vital security information that she could pass on to her colleagues. With many VOA contractors believing that they would be targeted by the Taliban, Aisha identified avenues for them to safely evacuate their country. These evacuations kept these journalists safe. During the fall of Kabul, VOA's journalists kept each other alive, and they kept press freedom alive for the Afghan people. Thanks to you, your audiences remain able to learn the latest about their country through programs like VOA's Ashna. Voice of America journalists speak 48 languages. Our work reaches nearly 100 countries. News is always happening in many of them. In August 2021, the entire world looked to Afghanistan, and Afghanistan looked to Voice of America. They look to you. It is difficult to say the word congratulations in situations like this, but we can always recognize your work, Aisha Tanzim, and the work of the incredible Afghan service. You are beacons of journalism and of press freedom. May your work continue to shine a light in Afghanistan. Thank you.
Afghanistan's capital falls quickly to the Taliban.
It took less than a day for the Taliban to enter Kabul, seize the presidential palace.
We heard heart-wrenching stories. We saw people in tears. These people have nothing now, and they have no hope for their future.
اوس طالبان دغه غرونو په لمنو کې له افغان امنیتي ځواکونو سره په جګړه لګیا دي.
Here with us we have Qari Said Agha. Qari Saab salam. I've always believed journalism to be a team sport. I couldn't have done what I did without the help and support of all of my colleagues, from my Afghan service colleagues in Kabul to my English newsroom colleagues in Washington, D.C. But in particular, I want to thank two people today, John Featherly, the head of the English newsroom, and Yolanda Lopez, our wonderful acting VOA director. Not only did they send me to Kabul, they allowed me to stay there to cover this very important story at a time when many were telling them to pull me out. For their trust and faith in my judgment, I'm eternally grateful. This is for you guys. And to my Afghan service colleagues, I'm so proud of you and so honored to be sharing this award and this moment with you. Congratulations, guys. You rock.
On behalf of the Afghan Service production team, I wanted to say thank you for the outstanding award that you've granted us. And I also wanted to send a personal thank you to the Afghan Services production team for their dedication, their effort, their energy, despite what was happening to them personally in their personal lives during these difficult times. Thank you.
عملیات ځکه ودرولې دي چې وسلوال طالبان دلته په کورونو کې ځای په ځای شوي دي.
Our co-workers, our colleagues, fearful of revenge by the hands of Taliban just because they were working with Voice of America and they were being stamped as traitors. So we knew what we have to do. We came together as one. We prioritized putting everything else aside, and we decided to do what we do best, our sacred duty, journalism.
I'm very grateful for this recognition. I think it speaks to the hard work, passion, and commitment of each and every member of the Afghan service. Journalism is our work, and it will continue.
The Afghan service is honored by this recognition. Our mission has never been more important in Afghanistan. As the free media landscape is shrinking in the country, VOA is committed to serving our Afghan audience, with objective and comprehensive news.
روابط بین طالبان و جامعه جهانی به وجود بیاره.
کی کنترل اکثریت را در
به اظهارات نشان ندادن اما بیشتر
هر دو کشور کمک خواهد کرد.
هر دو طرف
I'm Terry Balaz, Director of TSI, the Office of Technology, Services, and Innovation. We're honored to be recognized at this year's Burke Awards presentation. TSI provides technology support and program delivery services to all USAGM broadcasters so that audiences around the world can have access to our agency's valued content. TSI does this through a global network of satellites, FM radio sites, major shortwave and medium wave facilities, and through TSI's Office of Business Development, over 4,300 radio, TV, and web-based affiliates. TSI engineers, technical specialists, and administrative professionals work in concert to ensure that USAGM's audiences have 24/7 access to our content. But as the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan in August 2021 threatened service to our audiences, the 7 individuals we recognize today spearheaded TSI's response to ensure that USAGM content remained available. Afghan audiences rely heavily on USAGM's in-country network of FM and medium wave radio transmission sites. Ken Clairbeau, Acting Director of TSI's Broadcast Technologies Division, FM Program Manager James Kresge, and Germany Transmitter Station Manager Eric Schwabe worked closely with fearless, dedicated local contractors to keep the agency's broadcast going, even when the transmission sites came under attack. Despite sustaining minor injuries in a few cases, these contractors always returned to the site when it was safe to make repairs, refuel the generators, and otherwise keep those transmitters running. Thanks to their efforts, USAGM's local radio network in Afghanistan sustained only brief outages during the fighting, and as of now remains on the air. TSI's Office of Business Development also shares in this award. In 2021, Regional Marketing Officer Adam Gartner negotiated a deal to place VOA Afghan programming on Shamshad TV, promising to boost VOA's access to TV audiences in the country. That deal remained in effect until March of this year, when the Taliban blocked Shamshad and other local stations from carrying foreign news content. Meanwhile, Business Development Acting Director Joan Maurer secured over $1 million in development funding for special anti-narcotics programming from VOA and RFERL. Worried about the likely loss of local affiliates with the Taliban restored to power, TSI's Global Networks Division moved quickly to lease space on Yasat, one of the region's most popular direct-to-home TV satellites. Gregory Gibbs and Neil Kennedy in Global Networks satellite team negotiated bandwidth on Yasat's Afghanistan transponder, permitting VOA to launch a 24/7 TV channel in the country's Dari and Pashto languages. When the Taliban did stop affiliates from airing VOA earlier this year, our channel on Yasat meant that VOA remained available and could even ramp up its original programming. Thank you to all my TSI colleagues and many others throughout the agency for your excellent work in this endeavor. And thanks again for this award, recognizing the critical role that TSI plays in the success of the USAGM mission.
Hi, I'm Joan Maurer, the Acting Director of the Business Development Office at TSI, and delighted to be part of the Burke Awards ceremony. Our office negotiated with the State Department to bring in over $1 million to support Afghan journalists covering anti-narcotics activities. Narcotics is a huge problem in Afghanistan, and this project was going gangbusters until the fall of Kabul, at which point we were very concerned that the project would not be able to proceed. In fact, the exact opposite has happened. There are now 20 journalists from VOA and RFE inside Afghanistan covering all aspects of narcotics, health, drug production, poppy growing, and the audiences are phenomenal. Our recent research shows that 49% of Afghans, more than 20 million adults, are listening to VOA and RFE programs on anti-narcotics every single week. It's an absolutely amazing showing, and we're just thrilled that we've been able to support this project. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Adam Gartner, the Regional Marketing Officer for Eurasia for USAGM, and I'd just like to say thank you for this Burke Award. It's an honor. It's not lost on me that this is an award that is usually reserved for the brave journalists that we work with, and I just feel like I'm in great company. So thank you for that honor. I'd also like to thank all the people that I work with in Washington, in Prague, and in Kabul on securing the Shamshat deal and all their help and support, and last of all to the journalists themselves, without which we wouldn't be here. So thank you for this honor.
Hi, I'm Ken Clairbout. As Terry alluded to, there are a lot of people behind the scenes that make all of this happen. So I would like to acknowledge what is truly a team effort from the entire staff of the Broadcast Technologies Division to an awesome administrative professional and some very dedicated personnel on the ground who face significant challenges on a daily basis and risk their own safety to make sure the journalism our broadcasters produce reaches our audiences. With that, I'd like to hand it off to my colleague, Jim Kresge.
Hello, everyone. I am Jim Kresge, a program manager with the Broadcast Technologies Division. Thank you for recognizing our entire team who from day one persevered behind the scenes to sustain AM and FM broadcast operations in Afghanistan. We would not have been able to support this effort without the assistance of our teammates, including Will Cooper, Julio Alvarez, Mark Poe, Daniel Maxwell, Martin Gregory, Brian Clark, and Dwayne Williams. Keeping the day-to-day broadcast mission going would not have gotten done without the excellent support from Eric Schwabe at the Germany transmitting station, Danetta Dominic and Tanithia Reed from Resource Management, OCFO, USAGM Contracting, and of course our Afghan partners who use creativity and ingenuity daily to keep us on the air 24/7 in a very challenging environment.
I'm Neil Kennedy, part of the satellite group of Global Networks. I'd like to thank you for honoring us with this award. Greg Gibbs and myself are pleased to be included to receive the David Burke Award. We will continue to support efforts to distribute our agency's program content for delivery to some of the most difficult and underserved regions of the world. We'd like to express our gratitude to others in our agency who provided ongoing support for these types of efforts. Thank you.
My name is Jamie Fly, and I have the privilege of serving as president of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. The three RFERL journalists we are honoring today with the David Burke Distinguished Journalism Award are living proof of the courage, integrity, and professionalism that all RFERL journalists aspire to achieve. Ihar Losek, Oleg Havrusovich, and Andrei Kuznechik of RFERL's Belarus service, Svoboda, reported on the flawed 2020 presidential campaign and election in Belarus, as well as the anti-government protests that shook the regime of longtime authoritarian leader Alexander Lukashenko to its core and resulted in the vicious suppression of the democratic will of the Belarusian people. Their unwavering commitment to RFERL's mission to promote democratic values by providing accurate, uncensored news to audiences in Belarus, one of the most hostile media landscapes in our coverage region, made them targets for state repression, arbitrary arrest, illegitimate imprisonment, and enforced separation from their families and loved ones. Ihar Losek has now been held captive by the Lukashenko regime for nearly 900 days. Ihar was arrested on June 25th, 2020, on charges fabricated by Belarusian authorities. Following a 5-month closed-door trial with 5 other co-defendants, Losek was sentenced on December 14th, 2021 to 15 years in prison, a prison sentence he is now serving. Oleg served a 15-day sentence in November 2020, a 10-day prison sentence in July 2021 for his coverage of the post-election protests and the crackdown on regime opponents. On December 23rd, 2021, Alec was again arrested on unjust charges, tried, and sentenced to 18 months in prison in March 2022. Alec was thankfully released in September after serving 9 months in prison and has left Belarus now to join his colleagues working in Lithuania. Andrei Kuznechik was first arrested in November 2021 near his home. After serving 2 consecutive 10-day administrative sentences, Belarusian authorities opened a criminal case against him in December 2021. And in June of this year, Belarusian authorities sentenced Andrei to 6 years in prison. There can be no doubt that despite the harsh prison sentences meted out against them, the regime continues to fear the power of professional journalists like Ihar, Alec, and Andrei. In the past several weeks, the Belarusian government added all 3 of our Burke Award honorees to its list of persons involved in what they call extremist activities. Indeed, Belarus is currently one of the most extreme examples of authoritarian efforts to control information and deprive audiences of the truth. In addition to targeting our journalists, the regime continues to go after our audiences, threatening those who do so much as visit our websites or follow our social media channels. These are now acts in Belarus which can even result in jail time for our audience members. Despite the constant threat of arrest and state-sponsored harassment, Belarusian journalists continue to keep their audiences informed about developments in their country, including the role that Belarus is playing in Russia's invasion of neighboring Ukraine. With this year's David Burke Distinguished Journalism Award, RFRL honors the professional excellence, courage, and sacrifice of Ihar, Alec, and Andrei, as well as all Belarusians who continue to report and seek the truth.
Добрый день, меня зовут Олег Груздилович, я журналист белорусской службы «Радио Свобода». 63 годы я прожил у Беларусі, а тепер мушу жить у Литве. Пасля 9 месяцев турмы міліцыянты вывезли меня на мяжу з Літвой і забаранілі вяртацца на радзіму. У Беларусі я ўнесены ў спіс экстрэмістаў, як і мае калегі Ігар Лосік і Андрей Кузнечык, якія застаюцца за кратамі. 30-гадовы Ігар Лосік атрымаў найбольшы з нас тэрмін 15 гадоў зняволення. Андрея Кузнечыка пакаралі 6 гадамі зняволення. Беларускім журналістам помсцяць за працу не толькі вялікімі тэрмінамі, б'юць па іх сем'ях. Недаўна арыштавалі жонку Ігара Лосіка Дар'ю Лосік, якая заставалася ў Беларусі і патрабавала вызвалення яе мужа. Ёй пагражае 4 гады турмы. Без мамы і таты засталася дочка Лосікаў Паўліна. 2 малых дзіцяці Андрэя Кузнечыка чакаюць яго ў Менску. Андрэй з турмы дасылае ім вершы, але не ўсе лісты прапускаюць на волю. Рэкордную падтрымку аказваюць нам людзі ў Беларусі і за мяжой. Нават міліцыянты гэта прызнаюць. У калоніі я сядзеў у штрафным изолятары і чуў праз дзверы, як ахоўнікі паміж сабой размаўлялі пра мяне. Адзін сказаў, што гэта той журналіст, пра якога шмат пішуць у інтэрнэце. Другі адказаў, што малайцы, падтрымліваюць. Начальнік калоніі ў Магілёве гэта крычаў на мяне пры першай сустрэчы. Дык ты журналіст свабоды, адкажаш за ўсё. Дапамагала тое, што іншыя вязні спрабуюць падтрымаць палітычных, ставіцца да іх з павагай. Зараз у беларускіх турмах кожны 10-ы палітычны, і мала хто верыць, што гэта экстрэмісты і тэрарысты. Таксама вытрымаць дапамагала пазіцыя нашага радыё. Да мяне ў вязніцу нават дайшоў ліст кіраўніка радыё Свабода Джеймі Флая. Гэты ліст чыталі па-ангельску ўсёй камерай. Такая падтрымка там крайне неабходная, і асабіста я вельмі ўсцешаны, што USAGM настойліва патрабаваў нашага вызвалення, і ў выніку я аказаўся на волі. Вялікі дзякуй і за прэмію імя Дэвіда Берка, якой уганараваны Ігар, Андрэй і я. Жыве Беларусь!
Hello, I am Silvia Rosabal, and I am the director of the Office of Cuba Broadcasting. This year, we are proud to recognize Dr. Oscar Elias Bisset with the David Burke Award for Distinguished Journalism. For several years, Dr. Bisset has hosted a weekly radio program titled Lauton Libre, a reference to the Havana neighborhood for where he broadcasts, and to his aspirations for a free and democratic Cuba. This weekly program is an unprecedented effort to give people on the island a platform to freely express their ideas and concerns. The program originates from his home in Havana and is co-produced in Cuba and from our production facilities in Miami. Every week, Lauton Libre offers the perspective of the Cuban citizen who longs to know what is happening in Cuba and around the world and not reported by official media. Dr. Bisset's program spans a wide range of topics, such as human rights violations, the growing number of gender-specific crimes in Cuba, the repression against women in Iran, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and other national and international topics of interest to Cuban listeners on the island. He also delves into topics not examined by state media, such as the arrest and imprisonment of those who protest for freedom, the mistreatment of political prisoners and prisoners of conscience, and the restrictions on the use of the internet. Dr. Bisset's perspective is that of a Cuban who advocates for a greater understanding of the principles of respect for human rights, nonviolent civil disobedience, freedom, and democracy. Dr. Bisset's radio program reaches audiences in Cuba through Radio Marti's broadcasts on short and medium wave, and streams through our digital and social media platforms. In an objective, clear, and balanced manner, Dr. Bisset frequently refers to the repression committed by the security forces in Cuba, the actions of the government against democracy, and the plight of those who suffer personally from the abuses of a system that does not allow it to manifest. Dr. Oscar Elias Bisset began practicing and teaching medicine nearly 40 years ago. Beginning in the late 1980s, his open opposition to Cuba's communist government has earned him the regime's scrutiny and surveillance, in addition to multiple political prison sentences. He has been recognized as a former prisoner of conscience by Amnesty International and was awarded the United States Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2007 by President George W. Bush as a human rights and democratic freedoms advocate. Bisset continues those efforts today, and despite pressure from the Cuban authorities, refuses to leave the island. For this and his unwavering will to continue to disseminate information under extremely adverse conditions and continuous harassment from Cuban authorities, OCB is proud to bestow this recognition on this most deserving recipient, Dr. Oscar Elias Bisset. Congratulations.
Hola, estoy feliz y agradecido a la Agencia de los Estados Unidos, de los medios globales y a la Oficina de Transmisión en Cuba por otorgarme tan prestigioso premio David Burke y reconocer mi labor a favor de la libertad de expresión y los derechos humanos de mi pueblo. También a mi esposa Elsa Morejón y a mi padre Luis Nivaldo y muchos amigos que apoyaron esta hermosa idea de mi participación en Radio Martí. Radio Martí ha sido de su fundación una voz de esperanza y libertad que arropa el bloqueo informativo y el adoctrinamiento intelectual sobre la población cubana por el régimen totalitario comunista. Cuando se vive en una sociedad de miedo, sustentada en la opresión del terror de Estado como en Cuba, se valora mucho los esfuerzos solidarios de los amantes de la libertad para mantener viva la dignidad humana. Dedico este prestigioso premio a todos los luchadores por la libertad de nuestra patria, en especial a los mártires fusilados y los manifestantes del 11J. Gracias, Radio y Televisión Martín. Gracias, Agencia de los Estados Unidos, los medios globales y a todos los que hacen posible que esta voz de libertad llegue al sufrido pueblo cubano. Gracias, América. Muchas gracias.
My name is Laura Cunningham, and I'm the president of the Open Technology Fund. This year, I'm very pleased to nominate our Senior Vice President of Programs, Nat Kretchen, for the Burke Award. Nat joined OTF in 2017 and currently serves as our VP of Programs. In this role, Nat oversees OTF's programmatic operations, including 10 staff and over 100 projects that work to advance internet freedom globally. Prior to joining OTF, Nat served as Senior Associate Director at Intermedia, where he managed quantitative and qualitative research projects with a particular focus on information controls targeting hard-to-access populations. In response to growing global demand for OTF-supported circumvention tools, in 2021, NAT spearheaded OTF's efforts to expand and diversify OTF support for circumvention technologies. In tandem, NAT led OTF's efforts to build partnerships with USAGM news networks to improve the promotion and dissemination of OTF circumvention tools to ensure that all USAGM audiences have the information and tools that they need to safely access USAGM content despite increasing authoritarian censorship. As a result of NAT's efforts, OTF more than doubled the number of circumvention tools it supports and increased funding to leading tools in order to serve as many users as possible in priority USAGM markets. In addition, NAT worked closely with USAGM networks to promote these tools, particularly during times of crisis, to ensure that USAGM journalists and audiences were aware of and had access to these critical tools. These efforts were particularly significant in Myanmar, Cuba, and Belarus, where use of OTF-supported circumvention tools played a critical role in enabling access to USAGM content during political crises. For example, in February 2021, use of OTF-supported circumvention tools increased rapidly in Myanmar after the coup, from several thousands to millions of users in just a matter of weeks. At the peak, OTF-supported circumvention tools were being used by over 6 million monthly users, which is 10% of the country's population. These tools were not only critical in enabling citizens to access and share information, they also enabled VOA and RFA to continue reporting and reaching their audiences. In fact, despite being blocked by the military, VOA's Burmese website broke its record of website visits in a single day with just under 1.3 million visits via OTF circumvention tools. Similarly, in July 2021, the Cuban government blocked several popular social media sites and messaging applications in response to civilian protests. As a result, use of OTF-supported circumvention tools skyrocketed from only several thousand users to roughly 1.5 million users in a matter of days, the highest number of circumvention tool users ever recorded in Cuba. As a result of NAT's efforts to expand and diversify support for circumvention tools and deepen partnerships with USAGM networks, OTF was able to ensure that USAGM audiences had the information and tools they needed to stay connected to USAGM content during crises and critical censorship events.
Hello. I'd like to thank USAGM for this kind recognition and acknowledge that OTF's work supporting access to high-quality independent journalism is a team effort, and this recognition is therefore shared with my extremely hardworking colleagues and our partners. As we've seen in countless recent examples, from Myanmar to Cuba to Russia to Iran, it is when people need it most that authoritarian governments seek to limit access to news and information. We at OTF are committed to ensuring that people around the world have access to high-quality journalism, regardless of the technical barriers that might stand in the way. I'd like to thank our partners at USAGM for their admirable dedication to their journalistic mission and their close coordination with OTF as we attempt together to serve audiences facing ever more daunting sets of digital information controls. We will continue to support the courageous efforts of journalists on the ground who put themselves at risk every day in the fight for freedom of information and the truth. I would also like to recognize our partners in the internet freedom community who are building, deploying, and maintaining the technologies that ultimately allow journalists to more safely report stories amidst pervasive digital surveillance and audiences to access those stories. Authoritarians attempting to exert control over the flow of information are better resourced, but the passion, creativity, and brilliance of those fighting for internet freedom globally help maintain the promise of global networks free from repressive censorship and surveillance. Thanks again. I'm grateful for the recognition of OTF's work as we continue to fight to protect internet freedom globally.
MBN is very proud to recognize its team of journalists that covered the January 6th insurrection for the 2021 David Burke Journalism Award. This includes Hisham Burar, Khalil bin Tawila, Abdurrahman al-Bardisi, Wafa Jibai, Jim Narus, Luis Munoz, and Elizabeth Zuso. MBN's Washington journalists ensured that Al Hurra was uniquely able to cover January 6th better than any other Arabic language network. These remarkable and dedicated men and women have been covering Washington for many years, explaining how the government works to audiences across the Middle East and North Africa. Their expertise was essential on January 6. As the day started, Khalil and Jim were reporting from then-President Trump's rally. As protesters made their way to the U.S. Capitol, Khalil and Jim followed, always filming along the way. Abdurrahman and Luis were positioned on North Capitol Street as the crowds approached. When rioters passed by, they screamed at them while they were live on air, yelling they were part of the fake media and threatening to physically attack them. Khalil and Jim were courageous enough to continue filming the crowd until they reached the Capitol and reported amongst the rioters as they broke into the Capitol. This brave team stood their ground, risking physical and verbal abuse, but no matter the circumstances, they never stopped their coverage, reporting from the Capitol until 1 a.m. During this time, Hisham, Wafa, and Liz gathered reactions from then-President-elect Biden and across Washington. They understood this was unlike anything they had experienced before. Their reporting provided context to allow audiences to better understand the unique nature of these events and explain the constitutional process of electing a president. This incredible team of journalists showed what was happening at the Capitol through the eyes and words of Khalil, Jim, Abdurrahman, and Luis, while Hisham, Wafa, and Liz provided the perspective that this is not how a democracy works. They covered the condemnation of the rioters' deadly acts. They all shared their expertise of American politics and explained to audiences about the ratification process. All 7 of MBN's nominees played an essential role in the Al Hurra's coverage of that day. They understood the seriousness of the moment and the importance of their rules. Each person demonstrated their dedication to ensuring that Arab audiences understood the events. They provided comprehensive, accurate coverage and included context. The importance of their coverage cannot be overstated. Although the coverage was a group effort by the entire MBN news staff, we are proud to honor Khalil, Jim, Abdurrahman, Luis, Liz, Hisham, and Wafa. This remarkable team and their colleagues at MBN continue to cover the aftermath of the January 6th insurrection. Perhaps even more importantly, MBN was front and center when Joe Biden was sworn into office 2 weeks later, demonstrating to audiences that democracy will prevail.
It's a great honor to accept the David Burke Award and to be part of this outstanding team. It is an incredible feeling to be acknowledged for our collective work and dedication. I'm immensely grateful to the USAGM for considering all of us for this award. Thank you again.
It's hard to forget my feelings from that day. I remember expressing my worries to my superiors while the former president's speech was aired live. Jim and I, along with other media teams, were the target of insults and attacks by the supporters of the former president, especially in front of the Capitol before the security forces regained full control of the area. As much I thank the U.S. Agency for Global Media for this honor, I thank God for the continuation of the American democracy.
Hello, my name is Abdurrahman El Bardisi. I'm the Congress correspondent for Al Hurra TV. I would like to thank USAGM for granting me the David Burke Prize. It is an honor, and I really appreciate the fact that USAGM thought of this. This is really nice, and it is an honor to receive such a prize. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wafa Jibai, Al Hurra's Pentagon correspondent. I'm honored to have received the David Burke Award. I would like to thank USAGM for bestowing me with this honor and my team, who without the January 6th coverage and the rest of my work would not be possible. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the agency for the David Burke Award and the recognition for all of our other crews that were out there that day covering the events of January 6th. And it just goes to show you that you never know what's going to happen when you go to work that day.
Hi, I would like to thank the USAGM, and I accept this award on behalf of all my colleagues, past and present, because this is, after all, a group effort. Again, thank you so much.
I'd like to thank the USAGM for this honor and for recognizing the great team that I've been working with and all of their hard work. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Bei Fong, President of Radio Free Asia. We are delighted that RFA's Seoul Bureau Chief, Jung-Suk Oh, is among this year's Burke Award winners. The media landscape of North Korea is notorious for the severe restrictions imposed on its citizens, who are starved of accurate news and information. But despite these steep challenges, RFA's Korean service serves as a lighthouse of hope, as a North Korean refugee once said. Last year, Jung-Suk played a key role overseeing the team that produced a series of eye-opening reports about what life is like for people living inside the authoritarian state. These stories show the extent to which authorities are willing to go to control freedom of expression, which includes sharing and consuming outside media. Being a newsroom leader, Jung-Suk took extra pains to make sure his team could verify and confirm details in its reporting, contacting sources inside North Korea, which is extremely difficult and carries great risk. But he knows that only by going to these almost impossible lengths can this kind of journalism be made possible, the kind that the Burke Awards exemplify and that defines RFA's mission. As North Korea continues to ramp up tensions on the Korean peninsula and region, RFA's Korean reporting is ever more important so that the people living under the regime of Kim Jong-un are empowered with the facts. We couldn't be prouder of Jung-Suk, the Seoul Bureau, and the Korean service for their phenomenal work. Congratulations.
It is my honor to accept this award today. I want to thank all of the staff from RFA's Seoul Bureau, but especially the North Korean de facto journalists who serve on the team that made this impactful coverage possible. These stories about developments happening inside North Korea are difficult and they are demanding. They are important because they matter to our audience, the people living in North Korea. They rely on us to stay informed. I am proud to be part of this incredible team with whom I share this honor. I extend my gratitude to the U.S. Agency for Global Media and offer my congratulations to the other Burke Award winners from RFA's sister networks. Thank you.